Hello, this is Max Drake. I'd just like to talk about this reservation app at this point in time. I've actually got a little bit of work that potentially might actually get me paid, which would be quite nice. So I just want to leave this video as to where I am as far as the progress goes. At the end of the last video of where I was at, I was actually having to manually update everything. So I was manually pushing the data into the calendars. I was manually pulling the data out of the calendars, and then it was doing its magic. So I had an issue of trying to get manually, and I'm trying to automate that process. The second one is the charts are very slow to update, and is there an alternative way of doing that? And then really in some ways it's just a lot of smaller things, just refining details. One of the issues I do have is the booking page information. When I put information in, when I've got a reservation and I push it through, if I just come to this page here, which is where the reservations are being pushed in, if I only update this line here, so the bottom line is a new line, and so I was only thinking, there's a new reservation, I put it in. Because these other ones are sitting here, the calendar would take all of those and push them in. So it's then replicating information. Now, although inside Google Sheets, inside here, it says it has a setting through here which says auto accept invitations that don't conflict, it actually just copies the same thing across all the time. So you end up with a whole load of bloated, repeated information. So if you just look at these ones here, I'm just going to run that one here again, and I go up to scripts and I just add that event. And that's an issue. I thought I'd block that one off. Which rows are out of bounds? Oh, sorry. We'll just leave those there. And if we just come back into the Google Calendar, you see it's repeated that task there. So I've got to actually go through and delete that, which is a bit of a pain. So it's obviously there's some sort of iteration going through, and I've got a slight glitch on that. I'm not too bothered by that at this point in time. So I've got to get rid of these, but unfortunately you can't delete all of these rows. It won't let you delete anything apart from the two frozen rows. Is you've got to leave one row through there. I did try leaving a clear row, just inserting a new row which was blank, but the next time I ran the script, it can't read the blank row and it just errors out straight away. So that's a bit of a difficulty. So I'm getting replications. I'm getting bugs coming through from that point of view. On the other side of things, getting information out, I was trying to use app scripts. I could do a time-based trigger that would do it every minute or every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes, but it just seemed to be an awful lot of overhead for something where you might want to look up to see the latest bookings. Now, this is another thing. You don't want to look up bookings. At the moment, what I've actually got is that I'm looking up bookings, or initially I actually had a search of looking up the bookings on the page where I was creating the bookings. But those could be past days and future days and this and that and the other, and then they might be on different people's stuff. What you actually want to do is to look up bookings after you've imported the information back in from calendars in the date that you want. The reason why you want that is that those are real bookings. If they're real bookings, then they will they'll be in the actual database where we're using the calendar as the database through there. So these ones here, there's a couple of things in the reservation app that I tried playing out with. One of the things I tried playing with was this idea of using the browser input box, which will pop up so you can give a start date and an end date and choose, and then it will go and pull that information in, and it will then generate the charts or whatever for that specific time or specific date. So it's actually only pulling in the bit of data that you actually need rather than pulling in everything that you want. So I thought that was quite a nice idea, but it did sort of slow it down in one place. And also, you know, the other one, when I was actually setting it up, I was trying to do do it so you only typed in the month and the day, but it got a little bit of a nuisance. It started to break things, so I just went through, and what I actually did was I had a start date, which is today, and I had the end date, which is 30 days after today. So it gives you 30 days to actually, so it just pulls in 30 days worth of data that you're going through there. Now, if you've got something like 50 tables or 15 tables or something like that, and they're all booked up over a certain period of time, you can suddenly end up with an awful lot of data, and then you've got to do an awful lot of processing, because again, in your charts, you've got this overhead through here. Like this is only pulling these bits of data through here. So it's pulling 1, 2, 3, 4 appointments through, or the reservations. But it's still got to go through and do the concatenation of all of these ones here as this to here as a comparison through here. So all of these functions all the way through here have to be generated. So there's a lot of overhead. So I've got to do a little bit of improvement through the code. First of all, I get the blooming thing to run, then I can start refining it afterwards. Mine is usually just getting it to run because nobody generally pays me to do these things. So that's as far as, and to me it's really first principle. As long as I get something running, I'm usually more than happy to do that. So there's quite a lot of overhead in running functions in this sheet already. As I said, I'm sure there'll be people who can end up taking what I've done and starting to make it a lot more elegant. Second issue that I just want to talk about here, so that was the thing that you could suddenly only say, if you did a browser input box, or you actually ended up specific dates that you want to choose, and maybe a pull down on some of those might be another idea. You can actually only pull in a certain amount of data. So it's not doing a massive amount of work because you're only comparing far less information. You're not comparing 30 days or something like that. So that's one way of speeding things up as well. The thing is to get it all running and then do it. The other thing that I had with that, let's just go through that. So that was one of the issues. The second one was there's the attitude of the charts being slow to update. You put the information in, it goes and you pull the information back out again. So you push the information in the sheet, that goes into the calendar, boom, that comes back from the calendar into import page. So we just blow that away. I'm not too sure what's actually triggering this at the moment. It's come back in again. Now it's interesting, I just want to jump across here at this point in time and just talk about some triggers. Now I'm having trouble getting my reservation, getting my on-change trigger working through here. I combined two other sheets that I had in the previous one just into one to basically, so that new data went into here, so hopefully that would cause the on trigger, but it isn't. So the on change doesn't seem to be working. I need to do that. So I'm getting quite a high error rate, and it's actually long periods of time before it's actually triggering. The other interesting one that I thought was quite good, and it wasn't working, and I've got a funny feeling that the triggers don't take effect immediately. I'm getting ones that suddenly they work later, but at the time I actually built them and tested them, within that first half an hour or so, they just don't seem to be working. So I can use get events, and the interesting one was, there's a time-driven one, which I was talking about before, and we can do it minute, on hour, or day, week, time, or specific time of day when we want to trigger something. But the other one that we can do is from calendar. So if the calendar updates, then it triggers. Now I haven't fully tested this because I haven't got anything at the moment in my script, and I'm only just noticing this now, that I need to blow this data away. But in some ways I don't want that data blown away. I want that data there so that it creates my charts, so that all my charts and everything are live. If I actually delete that, then it won't. Now this is the other thing with the charts as well. If I go, one of the things that I found out about, and I'll go back to my AMP to demonstrate this, is that if I go to reservations, and I've actually got one of my charts here, and this one's not going to show me anything because there's no appointments on here. So that's what I can normally see with the charts. If I go to another one which actually has got a couple, this is still showing one. Now if I actually just go into my chart itself, you'll see that this particular date, which is the second one along, actually has 2 dates, but my chart hasn't updated. What I can actually do, and George B mentioned this as one, and what I can do is I can use this other method, but you see there's a blank, it's trying to look for an image, but what I can actually do is I can link across to this thing called Awesome Table. Now Awesome Table works in with Google Apps or whatever. It's an add-in in a way, and this one's showing both of them there. The only problem is on a small screen you only see this first part, So you've got to do a scrolling across to see the rest of the information, and your formatting on it is a little bit limited as to how you can do your formatting. And the way that just works is you just go to your awesometables.com, you actually select a spreadsheet, a bit like Glide. Now where's my spreadsheet that you want to play with? That one there we want to play with. And it then asks for a sheet, and we'll go chart, and then it'll ask for a range in there. Now it wants uppercase for all of those, so if we just go in and look at that range, I actually want to look from P16 through to AD28. Dum-dum-dum. P16 to AD28. Create, and it goes through, reads that information and gets you the table. And if I just select that, I can actually do a view or an edit, so it's really just changing the end file name, and if I just go into there, and it will generate that for me. So I'm using those as links in the chart. Come on, hurry up. So there it is. So it displays that quite nicely. But as I said, you can't do the formatting so that you can get it on the small screen. I have found if you orientate, you get it so it also orientates or auto rotates on your screen. If you look at your screen sideways, it tends to be a lot easier to look at. The other thing is, because the charts are an image, you get this blank image where you've got the ones where there's the image that shows up. So in some ways, in the app itself, in the dates, you either want to have all awesome tables or all charts, one or t'other, and then take out the second button to either take away images or take away the button. And the button is really just going as a link to that one there. Again, the other thing that I've done a couple of other refinements in the sheet. One of them, when I was first doing the choices, I just put on a whole load of dates, and then I was repeating one after the other. What I've found is an easier way to do it is just start with today, today plus 1, today just 2. So as soon as you do any pull down straight away, if you just do a new day, straight away the first data you're going to do is today, which is really good. So that speeds up things as well. You're not suddenly having to scroll through a lot of backdate ones to find, where you need to do with that. The other thing that I was going to add as well, I added that on one of my things there, was the booking person, who made the booking. And then the second one that I was going to add was a note. So if there's people who've got eating disorders that they need to be specifically catered for, or you've got somebody with accessibility issues like an older relative, or you have a baby coming in who needs a high chair or something like that, those things can be noted down as well. To do that inside, you need to, and this is one of the things that I'd done before, in the description, initially I only actually had the table, the start date and the date, but I didn't have the name, I didn't have the number of people, and I didn't have the telephone number, and then the person who made the reservations and the notes, which I can actually all join together here and push into this one description. Because inside the calendar event, you've got the title, you've got the start time, you've got the end time, you've got description. So you've got to concatenate it all into one long string. And then when you come out the other end and you're in the Glide app and we pull the information back in from the sheet and we do a search, we actually want to search by, we're going to search by Jones, who's right in the middle of the string. I love this search, it's great. And straight away it filters to the only one there. So that's really good. Now, what I then had to do is break down this concatenation so that we can actually have name, Jones, number of people in the party, 7, telephone number, boomf, who did the booking, boomf, etc., etc., etc. So you can have all of those things in there as well, and the table number, so that you can actually have it very clear in all the things. So as soon as somebody's filtered through to find those people coming through, or they got a date, maybe also in the main header you might actually want to put a name as well, just so quickly as people come through the door you can quickly identify straight away on the event name, because you can still just do on the event where you're doing a compare of this versus this, if this has actually got a string on the end with the name and maybe the number in the party, you can still just compare the first so many numbers in the string or whatever, or even yeah, you'd need to actually. So you'd need to only check so many numbers. So maybe anyway. Oh, sorry, that's where the VLOOKUP is actually happening. So, yeah, maybe there's a cropping of that or something that you can do inside here. So you can actually just do a split. You can leave a dash through there, so it's split on the dash, and then you've got less to look up. Again, with something like that. And at the other end of that information here, I'm using split on the information that's coming in, which is my description of the calendar event. And then that's split out. So I've got date, time, table, start time, end time, what the name is, how many people in the party, telephone number, etc., etc., etc. So that split works very good. So that's easy to come down and grab through as well. So there's a few little refinements through there. I'm pleased with it so far. I am getting bloody frustrated with getting these triggers to work. And that's what makes me nervous. I really like Glide. And there's certain things which are really robust in it, and then there's other things like the programming side of the things with the app scripts and things, which are just a little bit sensitive. Once they're sort of built, they seem to be robust, but they can be a little bit fickle getting to that point. Anyway, if this has been of interest, can you please give a thumbs up on the video? Thank you very much for watching, and I hope it helps you.